You now know that you are completely fulfilled. You know you are being fulfilled. Thus, I titled today's conversation mind map, Desire Points to the Fulfillment of God. Neville Goddard said one time, what you now desire, you already have, and you seek it only because you have already found it. You have already found it. You found it in the form of desire. You know certainly that desire points to the fact that you are fulfilled. How do you know that you are fulfilled? Well, as you abide in that still I am presence, that pure awareness, there is no illusory person in mind that can suggest that you lack, that you want, that you need. You know in that moment that you are completely fulfilled. So in the silence, you can say you prove to yourself that you are fulfilled. And this makes perfect sense because in the silence, we know that only God alone exists. So what person is there then that is apart from God that can suggest that they need or they want or they lack? That would be illusory. And it is illusory, not because I said so. You have realized this truth in the silence that only God alone exists, and thus whatever appears to suggest otherwise is an illusory thought. You also know in the silence that I, the individual, does nothing. I is not the doer of the works. The being I am, beyond what I think I want to do, need to do, have to do, should do, must do, is the doer of the works. Another way of saying this is all people, everything appears to be in perfect harmony. In being, there's only perfect harmony. Now, there may be an I thought that appears in mind that says, how so? Well, as you abide as that still I am presence, that I thought disappears. And it's not like you try to ignore that I thought. You know in the silence that only God alone exists in complete fulfillment. You are completely fulfilled. So I found what I desired in the form of desire, as it pointed to the fact that I am fulfilled. Another way of saying this is, if you accept that you have what you desire, you no longer think that you desire something, because that I thought can no longer exist. That suggests needing something, wanting something, waiting for something, desiring something, as you know now that I am completely fulfilled. You found yourself in the form of desire. So desire points to fulfillment. So what's in it for I then? Well, what's in it for I is all these things that I once desired spontaneously being added onto me. And I may point to it and say, for this reason or that reason, or because of this or because of that, yet it is not the true cause. The true cause is beyond what I can think is the cause. And that's why I don't worry. And that's why you don't worry. Because I don't think myself to be the doer of the works, because I would be deluded then to think myself to be the doer of the works. Can I honestly say that I know how it is going to play out? Or can I honestly say that I exist now completely fulfilled, witnessing everything appearing to be in harmony? People appearing to be in harmony, environments appearing to be in harmony, everything appearing to be in harmony, fulfilling God. Thus, there's only God alone existing, playing all roles in perfect harmony. And so it appears as every individual realizing that they already have what they desire. Every individual realizing that they are already fulfilled. And every individual realizing that they are already fulfilled plays out as harmonious friendships, harmonious relationships, harmonious business, etc. It appears that everyone plays their roles perfectly to bring you what you desire, as you play your role perfectly to bring them what they desire, as ultimately there is only being. So desire points to being. There's only being. Everything happens. And questions like, should I do this? Should I do that? This versus that, which can result in confusion, as it seems to imply that it's this versus that, I versus another I, which is illusory, as everything happens to be in perfect harmony, as it is now. Reality is perfect as it is now, thus you are perfect as you are now, and as I am perfect as I am now. We are all perfect as we are now. Why do I need to concern about how, what, when, why? I don't worry about these things. You don't worry about these things, because we know that only God alone exists. And see how illusory it is to suggest that there is something apart from God that needs to figure out. There is no other. Something apart from God that needs to figure out how God works generates this illusion of lacking what you desire, which no shame and condemnation, a desire emerges to point to fulfillment. You could say that the perfect play, an individual may forget the perfect role, which is the role they truly desire to play. They may forget the role, and so they desire to play the role. They acknowledge that desire points to fulfillment. As he said, what you now desire, you already have, and you seek it only because you have already found it. So what appears then as this person in mind seeking for fulfillment experiences desire as having desire. Another way of saying this is, you have a desire, that means you have what you desire. You have a desire, yes. You have what you desire. You already have it. Mark 11:24, pray as though ye have received it, as in you already have it. So as in the moment then you acknowledge that you are fulfilled, it is known clearly in the silence that this person in mind that was desiring fulfillment is not real. There's only the appearing or the unfolding of the fulfillment of God. Now, the individual experiences that love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss, that fulfillment of God with people, with environments, with relationships. everything appears to be in perfect harmony. It's quite fascinating. It's so perfectly orchestrated that it is obvious that I do nothing. This I is not the doer of the works. God is the doer of the works. As we discussed in our recent Neville Goddard conversation, I'll link in the description to it, God just is. God just is. What's interesting is we can also look at it as God justice. God just is, God justice. And as we're talking about the law being completely fulfilled, we can say God's law, God's justice, which is perfect, so I don't need to interfere with it. If I started to interfere with the perfect play of God, I may think I need to do this or that in order to be. I should, I must, I need to do this or that in order to be. When reality is already perfect as it is now. The absolute reality of God is perfect fulfillment. Perfect love, perfect happiness, perfect bliss, perfect fulfillment, perfect peace. But the individual may inquire, what does that look like? Can I imagine what that looks like? Certainly you can. You can naturally imagine yourself to be who you desire to be. You can naturally imagine that love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss, that fulfillment. Yet if the individual is trying to imagine, they can stop imagining. They can know in the silence, abiding as they are in that still I am presence, where there is no illusion of separation generated by the illusory person in mind that suggests otherwise, which is not real. They experience the feeling of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, the fragrance of God. And all these things added in reflection of feeling. Feeling is the secret. So you don't need to try to come up with the feeling. You could do nothing to experience the feeling of God, which we can point to and say, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Yet I don't say those words to limit the infinite love, the infinite happiness, the infinite peace, the infinite bliss, the infinite fulfillment of God. Because I know that I just witness the infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment of God appearing more so with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. It could appear as harmonious relationships, wonderful life experiences, wonderful business, etc. A great example would be I'm recording this right now in New York City. I have a different mic set up, so this might sound a little different. And yesterday we did a meetup for Flow-Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. I had no plans as to where we were going to go, but everything worked out perfectly. We found the perfect cafe. We found the perfect restaurant. Yet everyone was talking about how we didn't actually find it. We could say it found us. So we all know that this person in mind is not the doer of the works. It happens. And why does it happen? Why does fulfillment happen? Because you are fulfilled. Everything appears to play out as theater to reflect your fulfillment. Just as everything appears to play out to reflect your love, happiness, peace, bliss, etc. All these things that the individual desires naturally and spontaneously appear. They happen. And one of the things that we talked about is, how do you make it so? what do you do? And I said, I do nothing. Whatever works. Whatever works, I said. Whatever works. You have nothing to do with it. It's true. I don't need to worry about this or that. I stopped thinking this versus that based thoughts. There's no this versus that. While in flow, do you think this versus that? No. In flow, everything happens spontaneously. There is no this versus that. As we discussed in Thursday's video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. Flow is the result of being. Love is the result of being. Happiness is the result of being. Peace, bliss, the natural result of being. Then being is, thus, complete love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that is why desire points to fulfillment. As you know that desire points to fulfillment, and that fulfillment is existence. Presence is enough. Existing is enough. Being is enough, as to suggest that existing, presence, being is not enough, is to suggest that there is something apart from being, and there's only being. There is only being, although it can appear to the person in mind as this being, that being, this other being over there, etc. That's based on thinking that is judging by appearances that seems to suggest that one being is separate from another being, which is illusory. There's only being. How do you know? Abiding in that still I am presence, abiding in that awareness, it is known that it is the same awareness. There is only pure awareness. And not only is there only being, pure awareness, there's also perfect harmony thus, as besides God there is no other. So each individual arises from the same source being. And in the presence of God, it is known, mind is purified from the illusory thoughts that suggest not being who you desire to be, not having what you desire, something being apart from God. There is no separation, not because I said so. You know so in the silence. It's undeniable. And that is why the highest teachings we can refer to as the silent teachings. As I had also discussed in a recent Neville Goddard video, which I'll link to in the description, I mentioned that Neville Goddard's highest teachings are his final words of every lecture, which is, now let's go into the silence. So it's interesting. He discusses in his lectures how we already have what we desire. We found it in the form of desire. Thus I pointed in the mind map title, desire points to the fulfillment of God. And then at the end of the lecture, he says, now let's go into the silence. Now let's go into the silence. Because all questions are answered in the silence. All answers are received in the silence. All doubts clear up in the silence. There's no such thing as doubt in the silence. Because there's no person in mind that can think in terms of doubt in the silence. Now, you can be silent. You can abide as you are. You can be still. Abide in that awareness that is beyond these thoughts of limitation, not just while you're sitting down in a room where it's very quiet. You can also be still in the silence while having a conversation with another person, we could say, even though we know that there is no other. The mind may label this person, this is Joseph, that is Mary, that is Steve, that is Phil. That's fine. Yet you know in the silence, as you relate harmoniously with these individuals, that all these individuals arise from the same source being, and there is no separation. There's only being. Absolutely. There's only being. So then you have a conversation with someone, the conversation naturally flows. What you say naturally flows. What you don't say naturally flows. The silent teachings naturally flow. The space in between the words, the pauses and moments not saying anything naturally flows. It's not like you're trying to be silent to articulate the point. Everything happens naturally as I don't do it. I don't try. I stop trying. I do nothing. As it is known in the silence that only God alone exists, playing all roles in perfect harmony, being in perfect harmony. Why would being not be in perfect harmony? That's illusory. What is being trying to get or trying to prove? There's no other being to prove anything to. There's no other being to get from. Being is completely fulfilled. Thus, the desires from the heart point to the fulfillment of God. The everlasting fulfillment, the eternal fulfillment, the infinite fulfillment. How do you know it is the eternal, everlasting, and infinite fulfillment? Well, it appears more so. That love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss appears more so. You feel the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeate mind, permeate body. The thoughts appear in mind. Whatsoever things are true, lovely, honest, just. Speaking of, this is Philippians 4:8 I'm referring to, but just is an interesting word, as we brought up earlier. God just is the fulfillment of law. God justice. And I don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I don't need to know how it works. It works perfectly as it does. I just remain as I am. Everyone remains as they are. The presence of God is enough. Presence is enough. Existence is enough. Being is enough. And everything plays out in perfect harmony. So thoughts that are symbolic to Philippians 4:8, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, whatsoever things are just. Those are thoughts that accurately represent reality being perfectly whole, complete, fulfilled now. And as you are reality perfectly fulfilled, love, happiness, peace, bliss, how can another person exist in mind that suggests otherwise? That's illusory. It does not exist. You don't identify with this person in mind that suggests lack of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As we know, as it was stated in his mental diets lecture, that kind of thinking belongs to what the Bible refers to as the old man. And as you are not the old man, which is illusory, how can you identify with those thoughts? In the silence. Being as you are in the silence, there is no want, there is no need, there's no waiting, there is no desiring. The desire simply pointed to fulfillment, and now there is no desiring. I am desireless, as there's only being in perfect harmony. Everything appears to be in perfect harmony. Thus, that infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment appears more so. We could say it this way. We could say you realize God and then it plays out as theater, having come to the realization that only God alone exists. It just plays out. And it plays out as you feel more comfortable connecting with people. People appear out of nowhere saying the same things that you ideally imagine. As mentioned, I may imagine or I may abide in the feeling. Actually, I remain in that feeling, abiding as I am, the feeling that permeates the mind and body without trying to feel is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Therefore, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that fragrance of God naturally emanates, or we can say it that way, it appears as people, environment, experiences that reflect that feeling. And what did you do? You simply know, as he says, what you now desire, you already have. And you seek it only because you have already found it. You found it in the form of desire. Desire points to fulfillment. Desire points to being. There's only being. Only being in perfect harmony. Who can suggest otherwise? That would be illusory to suggest otherwise. That kind of I thought, it's an I thought, arises from the I that thinks itself to be separate from being. Yet that I is illusory as you abide in the silence. There's only the real I in the silence, the eyewitness of God, the eyewitness of the fruits of creation. The fruits of creation being whatsoever things you once desired. Again, Mark 11:24, pray as though you have received it. Prayer is a simple acknowledgement of having. One can even say desire, like prayer, is an acknowledgement of having, an acknowledgement of being. Desire arises, I know that I have, I know that I am. So you know yourself to be liberated from the illusions of not being. You know yourself to be that pure awareness that witnesses all these things added unto you as you have found the kingdom. You did nothing to find the kingdom. You don't earn the kingdom. You did nothing to find the kingdom. You abided as you are. You acknowledge that still I am presence, that pure awareness that transcends the thoughts, that transcends the emotions, that transcends the body, that transcends the world to be you. And thus you experience yourself to be in harmony with these thoughts, whatsoever things are true, lovely, good rapport, with the emotions, with the body, with the world, with the people. And you experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment with the mind, with the body, with the thoughts, with the emotions, with the people, with the environments. And why I use the words with, like for example, you may say to a person, I am in love with you, as in you experience love, which is reality, as God is love. You experience God with another person, as ultimately there is only God. So only God alone exists. So the relationships play out lovingly then. And it's not like you're trying to make them lovingly. It happens. I can of myself do nothing. The Father would then do it the work. I simply know that I am. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I found it in the form of desire. I desired love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with you, certainly. What's wrong with you for desiring love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? You know that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And it appears that way as harmonious relationships, harmonious friendships, harmonious life experiences, etc. And it never ceases to amaze me. It's so wonderful how it appears more so with increasing frequency on a continuous basis, as in there's no limit. It's infinite. There's no limit to love. There's no limit to happiness. There's no limit to peace. There's no limit to bliss. There's no limit to fulfillment. Although I know that I am, although I know that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, it's not to limit you. It's not to limit myself. It is infinite. It plays out as infinitely more so with increasing frequency, higher degrees. It just naturally happens because that is the expression of the fulfillment of God. God, you can say, gives you eternal love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, appearing more so. And I do nothing. I just witness all these things being added onto me. And I can say, at one point, there was this person that said, how could it be? Could it be true like this? Because at one point, the desire emerged and said, you desired all these things, whatever it may be, business, relationships, life experiences, and they were added onto you. Desire points to the fulfillment of God. So the desire of God is to be completely fulfilled. God alone existing as complete fulfillment, that is reality. And I said, could it be true? I desire to be completely fulfilled by God. The fulfillment of God is the highest desire. And there was an I thought, does that mean that all these things that I desire won't be added onto me? And what I found is that is not true. Not only are all these things you once desired naturally and spontaneously added onto you, infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment appears more and more so in ways that I never thought of before. In the various experiences of life, for example, I could be walking in a park and I could see a tree and feel this profound love for the tree. And prior to that, I might have thought, oh, I can only experience fulfillment or love or happiness if I get whatever material object. And while I did experience happiness with it, it was not because of it, because happiness is experienced within, and we may associate it to a material object. But having realized that I am completely fulfilled, I am complete love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, as mentioned, the desire for the complete fulfillment of God emerged. And like with every desire that emerged, I know that I am. What appeared was, oh, this tree, spontaneous happiness. Walking down the street, for no reason, we could say, spontaneous bliss, spontaneous peace. At a restaurant, people are sharing stuff with me. Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so great. You're spontaneously, unconditionally happy for each person with whatever they share. It's not like they say something and then you think, oh, they have it and I lack it. That's illusory. There's only being, appearing in perfect harmony. Thus, not only do you experience happiness with whatever it is that you experience happiness with each person that shares what they're experiencing happiness with. You're also experiencing happiness together, love together, peace together, fulfillment together, bliss together. And you know that it's not based on the appearances. It is the infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that was promised by God. The desire emerged, thank you, I am. And then all these things added onto you in ways that I imagine and ways that I did not imagine, because I was abiding in that feeling, as you are abiding in that feeling of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because you know who you are, so you don't need any conditions to be met externally, which is illusory. And by that I mean very specific. There's no inner versus outer. It's only God. To think that there's inner versus outer can be confusing in mind. Then it sounds like there's this conflict happening between what appears through the five senses and what is going on within imagination. There is no conflict, as everything appears to be in harmony through the five senses from imagination. We can call that a weakened imagination. And so thus knowing who you are, knowing that you are not that void, that lack of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are that which permeates that void, the complete fulfillment of God. Only God being existence itself, permeating the mind, permeating the body, permeating the mind, as mentioned, Philippians 4:8, whatsoever things are true, lovely, and good report. These thoughts naturally appear in mind. You naturally imagine. And also in the body, the feeling of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeate body and appears to permeate all. Yet that's reality. And people, environment, circumstance, information appears to be in harmony, mutual harmony. That's the way we were talking about yesterday when we met up. Everyone was sharing this. They were saying that, yes, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis, although they said it in their own way, they don't need to say it the way that I say it. Everyone says it in their own way. Everyone points to truth. Once truth has been realized that only God alone exists, everyone appears to point to truth. And actually, more accurately put, they were always pointing to truth. It's just that this person in mind may be denying truth. The person in mind thinks, I need to do this or that in order to be, and seems to not see the truth or distort reality, is another way of saying it, through those beliefs. Yet reality was always pointing to truth. Everything appears to point to truth, as there's only truth. And once truth has been realized as the only reality, reality being the complete fulfillment of God, thus being completely fulfilled, there's only being, then not only does everyone point to truth, it appears as everyone celebrating truth. So always in love with God, always in happiness with God, always in peace with God, always in bliss with God, always fulfilled with God. And this does not mean suppressing and repressing and saying, I don't feel happy, I don't feel at peace, there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, that pure awareness that is experiencing emotions in a loving, happiness, peace, blissful way. In other words, you transmute the emotions. Like, for example, I mentioned a while back, I would teach these speed reading workshops back in 2010. And I would experience anxiety leading up to the workshops. But I would still proceed with teaching these workshops because at that point, I know that this is what I genuinely desire to experience. I genuinely desire to have these conversations. So these emotions are not holding me back. They're not stopping me from manifesting what I desire. They're energy in motion, and I can relate to them lovingly. And sure enough, the emotions got transmuted into excitement. Many people report this. Many people say that that anxiety was just very powerful emotions being released. And when they fell in love with their emotions, when they accepted themselves to be that everlasting love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, witnessing these emotions, the emotions transmuted into excitement, into love. And then over the course, what happened was I don't experience anxiety before the public speaking workshops, before doing events. You know, meeting up yesterday, there would be a lot of anxiety back in the days, but I don't experience that now. Why don't I experience that now? Because the body transforms, the mind transforms in the presence of God. That still I am presence, knowing that you are, that still I am presence existing as pure awareness, thus pure love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, is transformative to the body, transformative to the mind. The presence of God purifies the mind. The presence of God realigns all the neural pathways and parts in the body, etc. All those things happen. I don't know how it happens. That is the works of God because I don't do it the works. The Father within doeth the works. And I know you experience this as well, which is why we have these conversations. These conversations are a consistent celebration of God, the power of awareness. In the presence of God, undeniably, everything appears to be in harmony. Or we could say everything appears to transform to be in harmony. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, I know myself to be that pure awareness that transcends all and appears to be in harmony with all, as there's only being, that perfect fulfillment of God, that love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss that appears to play out as theater in harmonious relationships, in harmonious environments, as ultimately only God alone exists, playing all roles in mutual harmony. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.